The skies above Earth trembled as massive warships entered the atmosphere. The alien fleet moved with precision, their dark metallic hulls gleaming under the sun. Cities across the planet came to a halt, people gazing upward in shock and fear. The invaders were the Scifi, an all-female warrior race from the distant stars. They were feared across the galaxy for their ruthless conquests, their unmatched combat skills, and their unbreakable warrior code. Unlike most alien civilizations, the Scifi had no males among them, only powerful, battle-hardened women who ruled with strength. Their leader, Empress Valora, stood tall on the bridge of the flagship. She observed Earth through a holographic display, her expression one of amusement. With long, silver armor wrapping around her muscular form and piercing violet eyes that could command armies, she was a figure of power. "Is this truly the planet that defeated the Varkan Empire?" she said, shaking her head. "Pathetic. Their technology is weak, their people fragile, and their warriors." "Ha!" The Scifi warriors surrounding her laughed in agreement. To them, a species that relied on men to fight wars was laughable. Among the Scifi, only women were warriors. They had conquered dozens of planets, each time proving their superiority. Earth would be no different. A smaller hologram flickered to life beside Valora, showing Commander Yelna, one of her most skilled officers. "Empress, the humans are sending a message. They wish to negotiate." Valora smirked. "Of course they do. Weaklings always beg before they fall." She turned to her warriors. "Let us hear their desperate plea." A moment later, the image of Earth's United Nations president, an older man with sharp eyes and a composed expression, appeared on the screen. Despite the situation, his voice was firm. "This is President Alan Carter of Earth. We do not seek war. We wish for peaceful dialogue between our species." Valora chuckled. "Peace? How amusing. Tell me, President Carter, where are your warriors? Where are the leaders of your armies? Do you send a politician to speak for your fighters?" President Carter did not react to the insult. "Earth has warriors," he said calmly. "But we prefer diplomacy over bloodshed." Valora turned to her warriors with an exaggerated sigh. "Do you hear that? They prefer diplomacy. How delightful." More laughter filled the command deck. "Tell me, Carter," she continued, leaning forward, "is it true that your men fight your battles?" The president's eyes narrowed slightly. "Men and women fight side by side." Valora scoffed. "Ridiculous. The battlefield belongs to the strong. Your males are soft, weak, undisciplined. If your best warriors are men, then your planet is already lost." At that moment, General Marcus Steele, the commander of Earth's elite forces, stepped into the holographic feed. He was a broad-shouldered man with scars that told stories of past battles. His deep voice cut through the air like a blade. "You talk too much," Steele said bluntly. "If you want to test Earth's warriors, come and fight us." For the first time, the Scifi warriors paused. There was no fear in Steele's eyes, no hesitation in his voice. He spoke with the confidence of a man who had seen war and survived it. Valora studied him. "And who are you, human?" "General Marcus Steele, leader of Earth's special forces." Valora smirked. "So you are one of these men who fight." Steele crossed his arms. "That's right. And if you think men are weak, then you clearly haven't fought the right ones." The challenge hung in the air. For the first time, the Scifi warriors did not laugh. Valora's expression shifted from amusement to curiosity. "Very well," she said at last. "We will test your warriors. We will hold a trial of combat, your best against mine. If your so-called male warriors prove themselves, I will reconsider Earth's fate." President Carter frowned. "And if we refuse, then Earth falls." The transmission ended. On the flagship, Valora turned to her warriors. "Prepare the arena. We shall see if these Earthlings have any strength, or if they are just another weak species waiting to be conquered." Below, on Earth, General Steele stood in the command center, his face calm but his mind racing. He turned to his soldiers, men who had fought through fire and blood, men who had never known surrender. "They think we're weak," he said. "Let's show them what Earth is made of." The warriors of Earth were ready. The war had not yet begun, but the first battle was about to take place. The sun shone brightly over the military training grounds where Earth's finest warriors gathered. A sense of purpose filled the air. Soldiers, athletes, and martial artists stood together, their eyes filled with determination. They had one goal: to prove that Earth's warriors were not weak. Across the skies, the Scifi warships hovered, their dark metallic surfaces reflecting the sunlight. The alien fleet had landed on the outskirts of a vast military base, choosing the battlefield where the trial of combat would take place. The challenge was clear: Earth's best fighters would battle against the Scifi champions. If the humans lost, their planet would be seen as weak, unworthy of respect. General Marcus Steele stood at the front of Earth's elite warriors. His sharp eyes moved across his troops, analyzing their expressions. They were ready. These were not just soldiers. They were the best fighters Earth had to offer. Special Forces operatives, MMA fighters, Olympic athletes, and hand-to-hand combat experts had all been selected for this challenge. In the distance, a portal of blue energy opened, and from it, the Scifi warriors emerged. Their presence was intimidating. Each one was tall, muscular, and clad in sleek armor that enhanced their natural strength. Their eyes burned with confidence, and their movements were disciplined and precise. At the front of the Scifi warriors stood Commander Yelna, second in command to Empress Valora. Her expression was full of amusement as she studied the humans before her. To her, this battle was nothing more than entertainment. "Earth's warriors," she called out, her voice carrying across the battlefield. "You stand before the greatest fighters in the galaxy. We have conquered countless worlds. Are you certain you wish to humiliate yourselves today?" One of Earth's fighters, Sergeant Daniel Briggs, a towering Marine with a scar across his cheek, stepped forward. He cracked his knuckles and smirked. "Talk is cheap," he said. "Let's fight." A murmur spread through the Scifi ranks. They had never seen such confidence from a male warrior before. Yelna's smirk faded slightly. "Very well," she said. She turned to her warriors. "The trial of combat begins now. First battle. Strength vs. strength." The first match was a test of pure strength. The Scifi sent forward their champion, Gorvasha, a towering warrior known for her incredible power. She had crushed enemies twice her size and was feared even among her own kind. Earth's fighter was Sergeant Briggs. He had spent years in the toughest training programs on Earth, lifting weights that would break normal men, pushing his body to its absolute limit. The two fighters stepped into the arena, facing each other. The rules were simple: whoever knocked the other down first won. Gorvasha charged first, moving faster than expected for her size. She swung a powerful fist at Briggs, aiming to knock him out in one blow. But Briggs dodged, reacting in a split second. He countered with a punch to her ribs, making a solid impact. The Scifi warrior staggered back slightly, shocked. No opponent had ever hit her like that before. She growled and attacked again, swinging wildly. But Briggs ducked, weaved, and delivered a devastating uppercut that sent Gorvasha sprawling to the ground. Silence filled the battlefield. The Scifi warriors stared in disbelief. Their champion, their strongest warrior, had just been defeated by a human male. Sergeant Briggs smirked and flexed his muscles. "Not bad for a weakling, huh?" Second battle. Speed and skill. Angered by the loss, the Scifi sent their next champion, Kivessa, a warrior known for her speed and precision. She was their best blade master, able to cut down enemies before they even saw her move. Earth's response. Captain Ryan Torres, a legendary Special Forces operative trained in multiple martial arts. Unlike Kivessa, he carried no weapon, just his skill and speed. Kivessa lunged first, her energy blade slicing through the air. But Torres was already moving. He sidestepped the attack, dodging by mere inches, then struck with a precise counterpunch to her side. The battle turned into a deadly dance. Kivessa attacked faster and faster, but Torres dodged every strike, his reflexes sharper than anyone expected. Finally, he caught her wrist mid-swing, twisted her arm, and flipped her onto the ground. Kivessa groaned, stunned. The battle was over. Once again, the humans had won. The Scifi began to doubt. Commander Yelna clenched her fists. The Scifi had been so sure of their victory, yet their champions were losing. And worse, they were losing to men, the very warriors they had mocked. Empress Phalora, watching from her warship, narrowed her eyes. Something was different about these humans. They weren't just strong. They were unpredictable. They adapted, they learned, and they fought with a fire she had never seen before. Yelna stepped forward, frustration in her voice. Enough games. We will end this with a final battle. Our greatest warrior against yours. A murmur spread through the human ranks. Who would they choose? General Steele stepped forward. I'll fight. The Scifi warriors gasped. A leader fighting in the arena. This was unheard of. Yelna smirked. Very well. But know this, if you lose, Earth's fate will be sealed. Steele looked up at the towering alien warrior before him. His muscles tensed, his mind focused. He knew what was at stake. This wasn't just a fight. It was a battle for Earth's honor. A tense silence settled over the battlefield as General Marcus Steele stepped forward. The Scifi warriors watched with a mix of amusement and disbelief. A leader fighting. This was unheard of in their culture. Leaders commanded armies. They did not enter the arena themselves. Commander Yelna smirked. A general fighting his own battles. Interesting, but you will regret this decision, human. Steele adjusted his gloves, his sharp eyes never leaving Yelna. We'll see about that. The humans and Scifi warriors formed a wide circle around the battlefield. The air felt heavy with anticipation. The previous fights had been shocking enough, but this was the true test. Empress Phalora, watching from the towering warship, leaned forward in her throne. Show me what Earth's leader is capable of, she murmured. Yelna cracked her knuckles. She was taller than Steele, her muscles rippling under her sleek armor. Unlike the previous warriors, she was not underestimating him. She had seen the skill of human fighters, and she would not make the same mistake. Let's see if your reputation is deserved, Yelna said. Then, without warning, she lunged forward. The fight for honor. Steele reacted instantly, dodging the first strike by mere inches. Yelna's fist smashed into the ground, leaving a crater where he had stood. She was fast, faster than any opponent Steele had faced before. But he was not just a soldier. He was a survivor, trained in every form of combat known to humanity. Yelna spun, sending a high kick toward his head. Steele ducked, grabbing her leg and twisting it sharply. The Scifi warrior growled and countered with an elbow strike. Steele blocked, but the sheer force sent him skidding backward. The crowd gasped. This was no ordinary battle. Steele steadied himself. His muscles burned, but he had fought through worse. He would not fall. Yelna smirked. You're tougher than I expected, General. Steele wiped a trickle of blood from his lip. And you're slower than I expected. Yelna growled, launching forward with a flurry of attacks. Her speed increased, her fists moving in a blur. But Steele was ready. He dodged, countered, and struck with precision. A punch to her ribs, a knee to her stomach, a swift elbow to her jaw. Yelna stumbled back, stunned. She had never been hit like this before. The human warriors cheered, their confidence rising. The Scifi warriors, however, watched in silence, their arrogance fading. The turning point. Frustrated, Yelna activated her combat enhancement mode. Her muscles tensed, her armor glowing faintly as it pumped strength into her body. She charged again, faster, stronger, relentless. Steele barely dodged in time. The force of her attack cracked the ground beneath him. He rolled to the side, but Yelna was already there, grabbing him and slamming him into the ground. The humans gasped. Steel groaned, pain shooting through his body. Yelna stood over him, breathing heavily, her victory close. "Your people fight well," she admitted. "But in the end, the Scifi always win." Steel chuckled, despite the pain. "Is that so?" Yelna frowned. "You think this is funny?" Steel suddenly twisted, grabbing her arm and pulling her down. She crashed onto the ground beside him. Before she could react, Steel was on his feet. He slammed his fist into her helmet, cracking it. The crowd gasped again. Yelna rolled away, stunned. No one, not even among the Scifi, had ever fought her this well. She tried to stand, but Steel was already there. He grabbed her by the collar of her armor, lifted her slightly, and delivered the final punch. Yelna collapsed. Defeated. The aftermath. Silence. Then, an eruption of cheers from the humans. They had won. Earth's warriors had proven their strength. Steel stepped back, breathing heavily. He looked around at the stunned Scifi warriors, then at Empress Valora, who still watched from her warship. Yelna groaned and slowly sat up, rubbing her jaw. She looked up at Steel, her expression unreadable. Then, to everyone's shock, she smiled. "You win, General," she said, standing to her feet. "I've never fought an opponent like you." Steel offered a hand. She hesitated, then took it. The Scifi warriors were speechless. Their most powerful fighter had been defeated, and she was acknowledging it with respect. Empress Valora finally stood from her throne. Her voice echoed through the battlefield. The Scifi honor strength, and today, Earth has proven theirs. She paused, her violet eyes scanning the human warriors. "We came here expecting weakness. We found warriors instead. Earth will not be conquered. Instead, it will be respected." The human crowd roared with triumph. The Scifi warriors looked at one another, uncertain. Some nodded in quiet approval. Others still looked doubtful. But one thing was clear. Earth had changed their perception forever. Yelna smirked at Steel. "You fought well, General. Perhaps too well. Some of our warriors may wish to fight beside you rather than against you." Steel raised an eyebrow. "Is that so?" She simply nodded. And just like that, a new chapter in human history began. The battlefield was still buzzing with energy. The cheers of the human warriors echoed through the air, while the Scifi warriors stood in stunned silence. They had expected to crush Earth's champions easily, but now, for the first time, they were the ones who had been defeated. General Marcus Steel stood tall, sweat dripping from his brow, his muscles still tense from the intense battle with Commander Yelna. He had won, but more importantly, he had earned their respect. Yelna rubbed her jaw where Steel had landed the final blow. A smirk played on her lips as she looked at him. "You fight well, General. I will admit, I did not expect this outcome." Steel exhaled, steadying his breath. "Most enemies underestimate us. It's a mistake they don't get to make twice." The surrounding Scifi warriors exchanged glances. Some of them looked at Steel with newfound admiration, while others still couldn't believe their champion had fallen. Above them, the Scifi warship remained motionless, its massive shadow stretching over the battlefield. Inside, Empress Valora watched with sharp, calculating eyes. A decision from the Empress. A deep hum vibrated through the air as a teleportation beam activated. Within seconds, Empress Valora materialized on the battlefield, her royal armor gleaming under the sunlight. Every Scifi warrior immediately dropped to one knee in respect. Steel observed her closely. She was taller than Yelna, her presence commanding, her violet eyes full of intelligence and power. This was a ruler who did not tolerate weakness, but now she had seen human strength firsthand. "You have fought well, General Steel," Valora said, her voice steady but filled with intrigue. "Your warriors have surprised us all." Earth has proven itself to be more than just another world in the vast galaxy. Steele remained firm. We don't fight for approval. We fight to protect our home. No matter who challenges us, we will never surrender. The Empress's lips curled into a small smile. Good. That is the spirit of a true warrior race. The Scifi around her tensed at her words. The Empress had never spoken of another race in such a way before. She took a step forward. The Scifi Empire only respects strength. Before today, we believed Earth to be weak. But now, we see the truth. She turned, addressing both her warriors and the humans. Earth will not be conquered. Instead, it will be recognized as a world of warriors. And warriors do not need to be enemies. They can be allies. A surprising proposal. The humans exchanged surprised looks. Steele remained cautious. Allies? He repeated. Valora nodded. I will offer Earth a place among our war clans. A bond between warriors, built on mutual respect. Yelna, still standing beside Steele, grinned. I must admit, General, I wouldn't mind fighting beside you instead of against you. Sergeant Briggs chuckled. Never thought I'd hear that today. Steele's expression remained serious. An alliance is a big step. Why the sudden change of heart? The Empress's gaze was unwavering. Strength demands recognition. You proved yours today. And in this galaxy, warriors must stand together against greater threats. Steele knew what she meant. Earth had always feared alien invasions, but if the Scifi, one of the strongest warrior races, considered there to be greater dangers, then the universe was far more dangerous than humans had ever imagined. He took a deep breath. If we agree to this alliance, what does it mean for Earth? Valora's expression softened just slightly. It means that when your world is in danger, the Scifi will stand beside you. And if we face war, we will expect Earth to fight with us. No conquest, no domination. A true warrior's pact. The human soldiers murmured among themselves. This was unprecedented. The warrior's choice. Steele looked at his men. They had fought with everything they had. They had proved humanity's strength. And now, they had a choice. Stand alone or forge an alliance with one of the most powerful warrior empires in the galaxy. Finally, he turned back to Valora. We will need time to discuss this with our leaders, but I believe warriors should stand together. Valora nodded approvingly. A wise decision, General Steele. We will return in one cycle for your answer. She turned to her warriors. Scifi, we leave as equals, not as conquerors. The Scifi warriors saluted in unison. The teleportation beam activated once more, and in moments, the Empress and her soldiers vanished. Their warships began ascending, disappearing into the sky. A new era for Earth. As the dust settled, the human soldiers stood in silence, processing what had just happened. Sergeant Briggs whistled. Well, that's something I never thought I'd see in my lifetime. Captain Torres grinned. From an invasion to an alliance. Not bad for a day's work. Steele exhaled. He had fought countless battles, but this was something far bigger than any war he had ever faced. If Earth accepted this alliance, it could change everything. He turned, looking at the sky where the Scifi warships had disappeared. He knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning. The battlefield was now empty. The Scifi warships had vanished into the sky, leaving only the humans standing beneath the vast blue horizon. General Marcus Steele looked up, his mind heavy with the weight of what had just happened. An alliance with the Scifi. It was a choice that could change the fate of Earth forever. His soldiers, still recovering from the intense battles, murmured among themselves. Some were excited. Humans had never been seen as equals by an advanced alien race before. Others were hesitant. Could the Scifi truly be trusted? Sergeant Briggs stood beside Steele, arms crossed. Well, General, I never thought I'd see the day aliens offered us a handshake instead of a death ray. Steele smirked, but his expression quickly hardened. It's a handshake we can't take lightly, Briggs. This isn't just a friendly pact. This is a warriors' alliance. If we agree, we're not just gaining allies. We're also gaining their enemies. Briggs's face grew serious. Yeah. And if an empire as strong as the Scifi thinks there are bigger threats out there, then we better be ready for whatever's coming. Steele nodded. We need to take this to the leaders of Earth. This decision isn't mine alone. Back on Earth, a few days later, Steele stood before Earth's United Defense Council, a gathering of world leaders, top generals, and scientific minds responsible for the safety of the planet. Steele explained everything: the battle, the Scifi's strength, and their offer of an alliance. When he finished speaking, silence filled the chamber. President Alden, the head of the council, leaned forward. General Steele, let me get this straight. The Scifi came to conquer us. We defeated them in combat, and now they want to be our allies. Steele nodded. Yes, sir. They respect strength, and we proved ourselves in battle. A Chinese general shook his head. This could be a trap, a way to gain our trust before they strike again. A European ambassador interjected. Or it could be an opportunity. We have always feared an alien invasion, but now we have a chance to stand with one of the strongest forces in the galaxy instead of against them. The council members broke into discussion. Some argued for caution, others for diplomacy. Then, a scientist from the research division spoke up. General Steele, you said the Scifi claimed there were greater threats in the galaxy. Did they explain what those threats are? Steele shook his head. No, but if something out there is strong enough to concern them, then we need to take it seriously. President Alden sighed. This is the biggest decision in Earth's history. If we agree to this alliance, we are stepping onto the galactic stage. There's no turning back. The room fell silent again. Finally, after a long pause, Alden looked at Steele. General, you've fought these warriors. You've looked them in the eye. Do you trust them? Steele thought for a moment. The Scifi were brutal, relentless, and prideful. But they had honor. He had seen it in Yelna's respect, in Empress Velora's words. They were not deceivers. I trust their code, Steele said. They don't lie. They don't backstab. If they say they respect us, they mean it. But if we accept this, we must be prepared to fight alongside them when the time comes. Alden exchanged glances with the other council members. Then he nodded. Then Earth accepts the alliance. The return of the Scifi. One cycle later, the Scifi warships returned, descending through the sky like massive predators. General Steele and a team of Earth's best leaders stood on the landing platform, waiting. The teleportation beam activated, and in a flash of light, Empress Velora appeared, flanked by elite Scifi warriors. She scanned the humans before her, then her eyes settled on Steele. Well, General, have you made your choice? Steele stepped forward. Earth has decided. We accept the warriors' alliance. A murmur passed through the Scifi warriors. Some looked pleased, others uncertain. Yelna, standing beside Velora, grinned. A good choice, General. I was hoping I'd get to fight beside you someday. Velora nodded approvingly. Then it is settled. From this moment, Earth and the Scifi are bound by warriors' honor. When one of us calls for aid, the other will answer. She extended a clawed hand. Steele hesitated only for a second before gripping it firmly. A powerful alliance was born. The warning. As the ceremony concluded, Velora's expression darkened slightly. Now that our pact is sealed, there is something you must know, General Steele. Steele frowned. I'm listening. The Empress took a deep breath. The reason we sought to expand, the reason we seek strong allies, is because of the Vrothar. A chill ran through the air at the mention of the name. Even the Scifi warriors visibly tensed. Steele narrowed his eyes. Who are the Vrothar? Yelna clenched her fists. A nightmare. A race that does not fight for honor, does not seek alliances. They only consume. Entire civilizations have fallen to them. They leave nothing but dead worlds behind. A heavy silence fell over the humans. Valora looked at Steele with absolute seriousness. We do not make alliances easily, General, but we need warriors who can stand against the coming storm. The Vrothar are coming. And now, Earth is in the fight. Steele felt a cold determination settle in his chest. Earth had gained an ally, but they had also inherited a war far greater than they had ever imagined. And it was only just beginning. The wind howled across the landing platform as the Scifi warships hovered above Earth's military base. The skies were clear, but an invisible storm had already begun. A war that Earth had never expected. A war against a name that sent fear through even the mighty Scifi. The Vrothar. General Marcus Steele stood in silence, processing what Empress Valora had just revealed. Her warriors, usually proud and fearless, had fallen quiet at the mention of the enemy. Steele had faced many threats in his time, but never one that made hardened warriors look uneasy. He met Valora's gaze. You say the Vrothar consume entire civilizations. How do they fight? Valora exhaled, as if remembering terrible battles. They are not like us, General. They do not fight for honor. They do not seek alliances. They do not even conquer. They devour. They spread like a plague, their fleets moving from system to system, draining planets of resources, consuming all life in their path. And worst of all, she paused. Steele noticed her claws tighten. They adapt. Steele frowned. Adapt? What do you mean? Yelna, who had been listening, spoke up. Every species they fight, they learn from. Every technology, every tactic, every weakness. They do not just destroy their enemies. They evolve from them. A cold shiver ran through Steele's spine, a force that learns and grows stronger with every battle. That was a nightmare. Sergeant Briggs, standing nearby, muttered, "Well, that sounds like the worst enemy we could ever have." The first signs of war. President Alden and the other Earth officials had been listening carefully. The room was heavy with tension. How much time do we have before they reach Earth? Alden asked. Valora's expression darkened. We do not know exactly, but we intercepted signals. The Vrothar are moving, and they have noticed Earth. A hush fell over the humans. Steele clenched his jaw. Then we have to prepare. We need to know everything about how they fight, what their weaknesses are. Valora gave a grim nod. We will share what we know, but there is only one true way to understand the Vrothar. Yelna smirked. By fighting them. Steele took a deep breath. Then let's find out what we're dealing with. A mission to the stars. 2 days later, Earth's first joint operation with the Scifi was set into motion. A small strike force was assembled, a mix of elite human soldiers and Scifi warriors. Their mission: investigate a recently attacked colony on the edge of Scifi space. Steele stood on the bridge of the Scifi warship, watching Earth shrink in the distance. He had always imagined humanity would one day travel the stars, but never like this, never in preparation for war. Briggs walked up beside him. You ever think we'd be fighting alongside warrior aliens, heading into deep space? Steele smirked. Not even in my wildest dreams. Yelna approached, her arms crossed. If you think this is exciting, wait until we reach the colony. That is when the real battle begins. Steele's expression turned serious. Let's hope we're ready. The silent colony. When the ship arrived at the outer colony, something was wrong. The planet below was silent. No signals, no life signs. The colony was intact, but it was dead. Valora frowned. This was a thriving world. Where are the people? Steele gripped his rifle. Only one way to find out. The strike force deployed. Human soldiers and Scifi warriors marched through the abandoned streets, their weapons at the ready. Buildings stood untouched, no signs of explosions, no battle damage. But everything was empty. Cars remained on the roads, meals sat unfinished on tables, as if the entire population had simply vanished. Briggs muttered, "This is eerie." Steele pressed his earpiece. "Command, are you picking up anything on sensors?" The pilot's voice crackled. "Negative, sir. No life signs, no movement. It's like the colony is just hollow." Yelna growled, gripping her blade. "This is what the Vrothar do. They don't just kill, they take." Suddenly, a distorted screech echoed through the streets. The ground trembled, and then they appeared. The first encounter. From the shadows of the city, dark, shifting figures emerged. Their bodies twisted unnaturally, their skin a sickly, pulsating black. Their eyes glowed with eerie blue light. Some were humanoid, others were monstrous, twisted imitations of the species they had consumed. Steele's heart pounded. Contact. Defensive formation. The creatures charge. Gunfire erupted as human soldiers opened fire. Scifi warriors roared, meeting the enemy in brutal melee combat. Blades clashed, bullets tore through the night, and the battle for survival began. Steele aimed his rifle and pulled the trigger. The bullets ripped into a Vrothar, but instead of falling, the creature shifted, its wounds knitting back together. Briggs cursed. "They're regenerating." Yelma sliced through one of the monsters, but as it fell, another grew in its place. Steele gritted his teeth. "These things don't just adapt, they multiply." Velora's voice cut through the chaos. "Fall back to the ships. We must report this to the High Command." The strike force retreated, firing as they moved. The creatures did not pursue far. They simply watched, their glowing eyes flickering in the dark. As Steele ran toward the evac point, he knew one thing for certain. This was just the beginning. The Vrothar had already tasted Earth's presence in the galaxy, and soon they would come for more. The warship's engines roared as it shot through the void of space, carrying Steele and his team away from the doomed colony. The glow of the planet faded behind them, swallowed by the endless dark, but Steele knew the real darkness was ahead. The Vrothar were unlike any enemy Earth had ever faced. They didn't just attack. They consumed, adapted, multiplied. Even now, Steele couldn't shake the memory of those glowing blue eyes staring at him from the shadows. Inside the warship, the atmosphere was heavy. Soldiers sat in silence, catching their breath after the brutal encounter. Scifi warriors checked their weapons, some wearing grim expressions, others sharpening their blades as if preparing for the next fight. Briggs sat beside Steele, shaking his head. "I've seen a lot of crazy things, General. But those things, that was something else." Steele nodded. "They weren't just attacking us. They were watching, studying." Yelna approached, arms crossed. "They always do. The first time we faced them, we thought we were winning. Then, in the next battle, they had our tactics, our weapons, our movements. It was like fighting our own reflections, but stronger." Briggs exhaled. "So, you're saying, the next time we see them, they'll be even worse?" Yelna's eyes darkened. "Yes." The warning to Earth. Hours later, they'd reached the Scifi homeworld, a massive planet covered in towering cities and glowing spires. Steele had seen alien worlds before, but this one carried the weight of warriors' history. It was a place where only the strong survived. As soon as they landed, Steele and his team were rushed to the War Council. A massive holographic projection of the abandoned colony flickered before them, displaying data collected from the mission. Velora stood before the gathered commanders, her expression unreadable. "You have seen them now," she said, her voice steady. "You understand why we needed allies." Steele stepped forward. "They aren't just a threat to the Scifi. If they've noticed Earth, then it's only a matter of time before they come for us too." A deep voice rumbled through the chamber. "Then we must strike first." All heads turned to Commander Rolger, a towering Scifi general known for his ruthless strategies. "We should take the fight to them," he continued. "Destroy them before they have time to grow stronger." A murmur passed through the council. Some Scifi nodded in agreement, others looked uncertain. Valora raised a hand, silencing the room. "That is not our way, Rolger. The Vrothar have no homeworld, no capital. We cannot fight them like we fight other enemies." Steel clenched his fists. "Then what do we do? Wait until they come knocking on Earth's door?" Valora's gaze met his. "No, we prepare. Forging the alliance. For the next few days, Earth's best scientists, strategists, and military minds worked alongside the Scifi to develop a defense plan." Steel stood in one of the massive Scifi training arenas, watching as human soldiers and Scifi warriors trained side by side. It was an unusual sight. Humans, smaller but faster, adapting to the brutal Scifi combat techniques. In return, the Scifi studied Earth's advanced weaponry and tactical flexibility. Briggs watched from the sidelines. "Never thought I'd see humans and aliens training together like this." Yelna smirked. "Your kind learns quickly. That is good. You will need that skill in battle." Suddenly, a warning siren blared through the facility. Red lights flashed. Steele's communicator buzzed. "General Steele, report to the command chamber immediately." The Vrothar's next move. In the war room, Valora stood before a massive holographic galactic map, displaying incoming distress signals. Steele felt his stomach tighten as he saw the pattern. Multiple colonies, Scifi and human, had gone silent. One of the scientists spoke, voice tense. "It's happening again. Just like with the first colony. No attacks, no battles, just vanishing populations." Briggs frowned. "So what? They're taking people?" Valora's face was grim. "Or worse, they are turning them." A chill ran through the room. Steele exhaled sharply. "We can't let this continue. We need to go on the offensive." Valora nodded. "Agreed. But we do not strike blindly. We must find their hive fleets, their breeding grounds. Only then can we deal a decisive blow." Yelna stepped forward. "I suggest a recon mission. A small force, human and Scifi, infiltrates one of the captured colonies. If the Vrothar are still there, we will find out what they are doing." Steele glanced at the map. The closest affected colony was Gamma 4, a former mining station that had gone silent 3 days ago. "Then that's our target," he said. Valora looked at him with approval. "You are learning the ways of war, General Steele. Let us hope we are not too late." A deadly revelation. 2 days later, Steele, Yelna, Briggs, and a team of elite warriors landed on Gamma 4. The moment they stepped onto the surface, Steele knew something was wrong. The air smelled different, thick, unnatural. The buildings were covered in a strange black growth, pulsing with eerie blue light. Briggs whispered, This wasn't here before." Yelna gritted her teeth. "The Vrothar, they are changing the planet." Suddenly, movement flickered in the shadows. Steele raised his rifle. "Eyes up. We're not alone." From the darkness, figures emerged. At first, Steele thought they were survivors, humans and Scifi, but something was wrong. Their eyes glowed blue. Their skin was cracked, shifting. Their bodies moved unnaturally, as if controlled by something else. Then they spoke, but not in voices of their own. A deep, eerie whisper filled the air, many voices speaking as one. "You cannot. Stop. What is coming?" Steele felt a chill crawl down his spine. The Vrothar weren't just consuming their victims. They were turning them into part of the hive. And now, Earth was next.